Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, the INEC disaster of postponing the Nigerian presidential elections is a gift that keeps on giving. So in life, one bad action is usually followed by a series of other bad consequences, and I came across this story, which is almost certainly a consequence, well, it is certainly a consequence of that bad decision taken by INEC. So it says, INEC misplaces results sheets for Imo, Lagos, Kano, Kwara as logistical mess continues. So that's the headline. INEC misplaces result sheets for Imo, Lagos, Kano, Kwara as logistical mess continues. Now, just staying with the headline for the moment, the states listed are quite pertinent and they're quite noted, and they are to be noted. So Imo, yes, but Kano and Lagos, they've misplaced the result sheets for Kano and Lagos. So, and we all know what that means, because Kano and Lagos are the deciding states for the presidential election. So whoever wins those two states almost certainly will win the presidency. So they said they've misplaced the result sheets for that. So let's now look at the body of the story. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, continues to struggle with logistics for the 2019 general elections, as some sensitive materials have been sent to the wrong states. Some result sheets that were meant to arrive in Imo, Lagos, Kano, and Kwara were accidentally delivered to other states across the country, according to reports by The Punch. When stakeholders in Imo State examined the sensitive material for verification in Owerri on Tuesday, February 19, 2019, it was discovered that some materials were missing. The state's resident electoral commissioner, Professor Francis Ozuonu, reportedly discovered upon investigation that the missing materials had been delivered to Gombe and Ondo states. Some result sheets belonging to Gombe were also discovered in the package delivered to Imo State. The Imo State chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Ben Duru, said arrangements have been made to rectify the mistakes on all sides. The result sheets were packed in cartons, and when one carton was opened, it was found to belong to Gombe. One or two words in Oba Mbasia, and sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, but Oba Mbaise were also found to be missing, which were confirmed to have been packed for Gombe. The REC quickly contacted and planned how to return the result sheet and how we would receive our own, he said. The result sheet for a particular word in Kano were also discovered to have mistakenly been delivered to Oyo State on Wednesday, February 20, when the materials were being sorted. The REC in charge of Kwara State, I'm not going to attempt his name, his last name is Madami, also disclosed that some of the state's result sheets were mistakenly taken to Abuja, while the ones meant for Lagos were delivered to Kwara and Nasarawa. Also, the result sheets for Lagos were found here. This is what the guy said. The result sheets for Lagos were found here. I have sent them back. Those of Lagos were also found in Nasarawa. You can see the reasons why the elections were postponed, he said. INEC had postponed the elections initially scheduled to take place last week due to logistical issues and claim of sabotage. The presidential and National Assembly elections that were initially supposed to take place on February 16th will now take place on February 23rd, while the governorship and state House of Assembly elections initially scheduled for March the 2nd have been moved to March the 9th. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu has assured Nigerians that the elections will not be postponed a second time. So there you have it. It stated that logistical reasons were the reasons that that he's had to postpone the elections, and he's gone on to state that he needed an additional week to perfect those logistical reasons. And from the feedbacks that we're now getting from the field, it looks as though nothing has been perfected, because you can tell for certain that on come election day, there'll be a lot of reports of the wrong sheets being delivered to the wrong locations, which will then truncate voting in a lot of locations, which will really lead to a staggered election, which is what he said he is trying to prevent. So really, there's several layers to this story. Clearly, there's several layers to this story, and there's several intrigues and interplays being played out, a lot of which we're not yet conversant with yet, but in the fullness of time, because this is the Nigerian landscape, and somebody will talk at some point, and we will get to find out what's actually transpired here. But one thing that we already know is that this man's name, this Mahmood Yakubu's name, will go down in history as the worst electoral umpire in the history of the Nigerian state. This is a real setback for elections in Nigeria, because we had the Obasanjo elections in 1999, which was really a military arrangement. It was just installed in power then. Then we had the Yar'Adua elections, which was really a contest, but it was rigged in favor of Yar'Adua, and Yar'Adua came out to admit. So Yar'Adua coming out to admit is a step forward in terms of developing our democracy. So we had a very poor election, but the winner said this was very poor, and I admit that there was a lot of sleights of hand in how this played out for me to win, and I would try and ensure that this doesn't happen again. So this was what Yar'Adua put out. So then we subsequently had the Goodluck Jonathan elections against was it Buhari that he defeated, against whoever he defeated in his first election. I think that was 2011, and that was a better election than the elections that we'd had previously, because it was a fair fight and people voted for him en masse, and he emerged victorious, and that victory he took, so that was a clean-cut election. And then we had the 2015 elections, which was a slight improvement on previous elections, although we had a lot of incidents of underage voting, but really broadly the acceptance was that Buhari won, and really there was a mood for change within the country, and because the polity was so heated up as well, President Goodluck Jonathan then made the calculation to concede defeat, even though he might or might not have been defeated in that elections. No, because really a lot of people felt he won that election narrowly, and there was a lot of coercion in Kano and in Lagos, because Tinubu obviously controls Lagos, and this former Inspector General of Police and the former CBN chief, what is his name, the Emir of Kano, they controlled Kano, and between those two, they were able to rig those two states, and those two states obviously gives the presidency to a candidate. So, but all of that transpired, but then the real key thing that came out of the 2015 election was, for the first time in a democratic dispensation, a Nigerian president was able to hand over power to an opposition person without rancor and without violence. So that was a real leap forward in terms of our democratic development. So now we have made all of these gains, but all of those gains have now been wiped out by this foolish idiot guy here called Mahmood Yakubu, because what he has now done is he's cancelled an election 5 hours before it because of reasons that he says is logistics, even though he's had 4 years to prepare for that logistics. And the feedback that we're now getting from the field is that those logistical reasons that he stated as reasons for postponing the elections, not cancel, but postponing the elections, because he said he needed that additional time to perfect it. The feedback that we are now getting from the field is that nothing has actually been perfected. In actual fact, things are a lot worse than they were previously, because in previous elections we never really had this much incidence of materials being delivered to the wrong locations and all this kind of nonsense. We never heard all these things like the weather stopped play and all this sort of nonsense. This is the most ridiculous set of reasons yet that we've had for manipulations of elections in Nigeria. So it might as well have just come out to say, I'm postponing the elections because we want to cheat, because that would have made more sense than all of this nonsensical stuff that we're hearing now. So if those elections on Saturday, this coming Saturday, if they now have to be staggered, then clearly this guy should be held to account, because the reasons why he said he has to postpone it is so that the elections were not staggered and they were all held on the same day. So if materials for Lagos are being delivered to Gombe, and if materials for Kano are being delivered to Imo, then clearly elections cannot hold in both words, or whichever words these errors pertain to. So because obviously you need the sheets to conduct the elections, and if the sheet of Kano is no good in Imo, and the sheets of Imo are no good in Kano, so really this is a real disaster waiting to happen. That is a disaster actually happening in slow motion. It's like watching a car crash happening ahead of you, and you can't look away, but you know what the impact is. If a driver loses control of his car and he starts to career at speed towards a solid object in front, you know what the result will be. You can't look away, but you see that the disaster is imminent. And this is what is going on here. This is car crash election. The car is about to crash. We're seeing it lose control. We are seeing it careering towards a heavy solid object, and the impact will be felt on Saturday, when this Professor Yakubu will just exonerate himself and walk away, because he's already packed his own $1 billion, as everybody goes in to pack their own $1 billion from the Nigerian state, and nothing will happen. Nigerians will moan and groan, and life will carry on. And thus is the story of the Nigerian state. So the electoral materials are being delivered to the wrong states, to the wrong wards. This is the story that is now emerging. What says you? Leave your comments in the comment section. Let's get a conversation going around this topic. So I'll leave you here, meet you in the comment section, and I'll say peace.